We work hard as physicians to take care of the health and well-being of our patients. But when it comes to our money, do we have the same condition of care? Probably not. Let's change that together. Welcome to the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast, where we'll fight and advocate for your financial literacy. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. Thanks for being here. Let's jump into the show. Hey guys, I want to welcome you guys to the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast. We've got a great episode this week. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button as well as the notifications bell, and be sure to like, comment, and share if you like this episode, and we'll get into this week's sponsor and show. This week's episode is sponsored by CitiVest. CitiVest has quickly become the most popular and best way for doctors to invest in top-performing real estate private equity funds that are usually reserved for institutional investors. This unique access to investing in these institutional funds is available for the first time ever through CitiVest's easy and secure online investment platform. CitiVest does the hard work of conducting due diligence and vetting the investments. They even get a third-party due diligence report that is posted on their website. As a result of aggregating a several $million investment amount into their access funds, CitiVest gains access to investing in the institutional investment and is able to negotiate better investment terms such as a 12% preferred return. You can check them out at citivest.com or go to the link in the show notes below. Now on to the show. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast. And I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. And as usual, I tout the 4 types of freedom: financial, location, time, emotional freedom. And part of my mission is to go out there, bring you the best resources, people that are doing extraordinary things on the cutting edge, innovating. And so today we have a special guest, Stephanie Walter. So she is the CEO of Erbe Wealth, a capital raiser, syndicator, and real estate investor. She recently retired and sold her insurance agency of 16 years by following the key principles she teaches professionals to use. And she teaches professional people to unlearn what most of us have been wired to think about money, so important, and re-educating people on attaining lasting wealth. So that's so important in today's age, financial freedom. And she is a gateway between those professionals and well-vetted deals. She lives with her husband and young son in Colorado. So welcome to the show, Stephanie.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we're just talking backstage, and I'm just so happy to bring a lot of different viewpoints to my guests and audience. So I know we're going to talk a lot about like wealth strategies, wealth preservation, real estate syndication. I'll let you talk about all that, but let's tell us where you got started, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, no, I started like most people. I had a W-2 job, and right when I got out of college and had worked there, I was an insurance adjuster for about 8 years, and had gotten my last job raise was about 2%, and I went back and talked to my dad, who was an entrepreneur, and I was just really bummed out. And he was like, well, if you stay, in the corporate world, what you can expect, or you can, go out on your own, and then, what you achieve is really up to you. And so from that, I gave my 2 weeks notice and became an insurance agent, and did that for 16 years. Always loved real estate. Didn't have a lot of education, so I was more, I acquired a portfolio, during the crash of 07, 08, 09 in Denver, and just bought homes that I thought would be really good as far as location and future growth for Denver. And, I was pretty lucky in the way that turned out. But just a few years ago, about 5 years exactly, I was asked to go to a boot camp for apartment investing, and I went, and that's where I learned the term syndication, which I'd never heard in my life before. And it really is just a group of people that get together and buy something bigger than anyone can do on their own. And after I learned about that concept, I was just sold. I went to educate myself as much as I could. It was pretty much the next 2 years of just solidly educating myself. Put my first syndication together in 2018, decided I never ever wanted to put one together again by myself again, and found a really great team member at that time. And we're on our 12th syndication together. And I love talking to people because most people I speak to have never heard of this concept, just like I hadn't. I was 45 before I heard the concept. And I work with a lot of wealthy investors, and also noticed that they do things very different with their money than I was taught to do. And so eventually I kind of modeled what they were doing with their money, and I was able to retire from my business in July of last year, 2021. And so now I raise money for deals that I feel are, warranted. And then I educate in the remainder of my time.
That's a fantastic story. It's a very wonderful story of entrepreneurship. And, you brought up a couple points during your intro that I'd like to highlight. And so the particular thing that stood out to me was you said you had to unlearn a lot of the money mindsets and ways of thinking. So tell us more about that, what mainstream, what the narrative is, and versus, what you discovered.
Yeah, I mean, it took a while for me to really wrap my mind around it and put words to it. But there are two different views that I see that people have in our society. I and most people are of the accumulation mindset. Mm-hmm. And that is just, we're going to accumulate our money, put it in a 401k. My strategy was actually to buy rental homes and just keep, managing them and paying them down for 30 years. And then I'd have the cash flow coming in to retire. So it's really just putting your money in a place where you don't have a ton of control over it. I mean, in the 401k world, that's much more clear, of not really being able to, move the money where you want it to be. And that's, whether that's in your bank or 401k or under your mattress, it's accumulating the money, letting it grow into your little nest egg. And then, when you're ready to retire, to go get it. But what the wealthy people do is, I call it utilization, and they are using their money. Their money is working for them at all times. And when I say working for them, it's providing the here and now, cash flow, appreciation. But a lot of them tell me, more importantly than anything, is they have really great tax strategies. The bad thing about, the 401ks, or even me owning, these properties until I retired, is you have all this equity sitting, being unused. And if I wanted to sell it, there'd be a huge tax consequence. I mean, I could do a 1031 or something like that if I still wanted to just, be a landlord or something like that. But what I found interesting is the wealthy know, when they're going into a particular investment, they want to know what tax benefits, really the tax benefits are going to be to them throughout the whole investments. And I don't think most people think about taxes. until it's too late, really, to do much about it. And so they're constantly, one, I guess, having their money work for them, and they're developing tax mitigation strategies all throughout what they're investing in. And when you invest for cash flow, I guess, which is really seems to be their goal, I was investing a lot for my net worth, which looked great on paper, but didn't give me a whole lot in the here and now. If you're investing for cash flow, it gives you a lot more freedom. The more cash flow you have to make a decision of, do you want to keep working, or, hey, would I like to work maybe part-time, or would I like to do something that I love to do rather than what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. That's so important, because we're just I think we're just brought up with the whole just be an employee. You show up to work, you 9 to 5, get your paycheck, but it doesn't work in this day and age, to be frankly. So and I'm glad that guests such as yourself are bringing these to the point, and you really have to have financial literacy. It's not just going to a job and working for 60 years, and it's the idea of money. We're taught to think that money is a scarce resource, but money is a man-made construct. So, if you can think in terms of abundance. But so what are some of I know you do self-directed IRAs to invest in real estate. So talk about a little bit about that. And also, I know you talk about cost segregation, and we can go from there.
Yeah. Well, the self-directed IRAs, that's a great thing, a great strategy for someone that doesn't want to, cash in their 401k and pay all the penalties and everything like that. In this day and age, I think people are changing jobs so rapidly that a lot of people might have an old 401k that's just sitting. And the sad thing is, it's probably not doing very well. I look at some of these that my investors bring to me, and maybe it's been returning 4% over the last 10 years, or, I don't see that it's performing really well. But what you can do is just roll it over to a self-directed IRA. And in the self-directed IRA, you're able to invest that money into, well, anything. I mean, you can invest not in anything, but you can invest it in real estate. You can invest it in, notes. You can invest it in a lot of things that are not traditional, things that you would put in if you found your 401k is invested in. It's nice because you can take that money and put it into something that isn't tied to the market, and real estate is not. So, for example, I have an investor who took, about $100,000 in a self-directed IRA, put it into one of our investments. He gets 8% return every month on that. So that, and now it's up to about 10% a year is what he's getting on that. And so then that money goes straight back into the self-directed IRA. It never goes to him directly. But then at the end of this investment, which we're looking at that being in the next year, is that when we sell it, he gets all those proceeds, and that goes straight back into his self-directed IRA. No taxes at all. So he doesn't have to worry about, capital gains or anything like that, because that's just not going to affect it in a self-directed IRA. But the benefit is that he's invested for about 4 years, and the total return, including the cash flow that he got every month and the appreciation at the end of the investment, is over 20% a year. So he's basically going to double his 100,000 in that 4-year period. And so he's ready to do it again. And it's a great way to, really do some good things for your retirement that you can control in your self-directed IRA.
On the wash, rinse, and repeat cookie cutter approach. I love that.
Cost segregation, that's a different beast altogether. That's usually used for people that just want the tax benefits in the here and now, which is most people want that. And so what we do is on every multifamily property we buy, we do what's called a cost segregation. It's an actual thing. Someone comes out and itemizes each and every piece of personal property that's located in a multifamily structure. And then instead of maybe most people are familiar with having a rental property and being able to depreciate that over 28 years or, however the schedule is, we're able actually to accelerate that depreciation to 3, 5, 7 years, depending on what type of personal property there are, because they all have different schedules. So what that means for my investors is, say they invest $100,000 in the deal. In that first year, they're going to get the tax segregation, the paperwork, and they'll get a K-1 at the end of that first investment year, where they write off probably about $35,000 to $45,000 of their investment in that first year. And then each year after that, the cost segregation has, it goes down significantly after that first year, but that's a huge, it comes through as a loss, but you will have still received the cash flow. So it's a paper loss, but it works just fine on your taxes to pay less.
Yes. You made very smart decisions, to go out on your own and then to start your own insurance, just because you realized the limits of W-2 employment. And then you made very good decisions in the up and coming Denver area, which is now it's a booming market. Yeah. So what made you go from direct active real estate to passive real estate? Describe that transition, because I know a lot of real estate investors, they're, just thinking, just buy a single family, but what you're talking about is a little bit more strategic and has more leverage.
Yeah, for sure. That's all I knew. I just kind of modeled what I saw my dad doing, so that the single family made a lot of sense to me. And I was a native Coloradan, so I had my ideas of where the growth would have the most impact. So yeah, I had some good, choices or results there for my choices, but I managed all my properties. I didn't have a ton of them. I had like 5 of them. And I did that since 2005. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I just became the worn out, tired landlord. And I actually had some really great properties. I dealt with some really nice people, but you could still have, just all the day to day. I was running my business as insurance, and then, have a call of, well, the sprinkler head went out, or, I had one duplex and they would complain about the other side of the duplex making too much noise, and, just a lot of stuff that, to me, it wore me down over time. And when I learned about syndication and I learned about, so I could sell a property. This is how I see actually most investors doing it, is they're like, this sounds good, but it sounds almost too good to be true. So they will take their first rental and sell it. And that's what I did. And I put it in, I sold my last property a year ago, and put them all the equity into the different deals that I manage myself, and that I raised money for. And yeah, after that first time you do it and you get that cash flow every month, that 8%, 7, I don't know, it's usually between 7 and 9%. And you get that every month without having to worry about dealing with anyone. You look at a report once a month, a really nice detailed report that tells you who's moving in, who's moving out, what kind of things have been happening at the property, what work orders are going on, what, if there's any overall renovations going on or anything like that. And just a nice profit and loss statement and a copy of the bank statement showing money, the rent's going in and the expenses coming out. So very transparent. And let me tell you, I would much rather look at that report once a month than to deal with all the other stuff I was dealing with. And the returns are, they're amazing. They're, 20%. I aim to find deals that return over 20%. If people go to my website, they'll see I have them all listed. And I know I had one person contact me and he's like, well, that's good that you showed all your winners, but showed some of your losers. And I'm like, well, that's all I have. All I've managed to put together are ones that have returned over 20%. So that's I think a real strong strategy. And that doesn't even include, the benefits that I've gained from the tax. So between all of that stuff, it made the choice very easy to, go over to, I call it, we do it yourselves. A lot of entrepreneurs are do it yourselfers. And I took a lot of pride in that. But then when I got into this type of real estate, I realized that it's called done for you real estate. You have the professionals that have done this over and over again, doing this for you. And I prefer that.
Yes. Yeah. So to the listeners, what you're leveraging is time. So,
yeah.
You're not stuck with I think the 3 tenets of landlordship are tenants, toilets, and trash. So, basically if you invest in a syndication, it gets rid of all of that, and you have people that deal with that, and you get to get involved in bigger deals. So I know a lot of people are interested in becoming syndicators. Do you need what sort of qualifications or licensures or certifications do these if you want to become a syndicator?
Nothing. That's a bit of a scary thought, but really nothing. So yeah, if you're an investor, I, strongly suggest you look at someone's track record. But at the end of the day, our first deal, we didn't have a track record. So then you just really look at who the team is and what their experience is on their own. And to make sure that someone has a business plan, a strong business plan of what they want to do with the property, and also an exit plan. So you have an idea of how long the money will be tied up. But no, I mean, for a prospective syndicator, my advice is always get involved with a team you do maybe your first couple deals with, because there is nothing better. And I've been just a very lucky person in this business, is that I've had wonderful mentors, and I have a wonderful partner. But yeah, there's so many people in this industry that are willing to help the new people. So there's tons of, little groups. I started with RE Mentor, but there's a lot of groups out there that you can get involved with, and specifically you get involved to find your partners.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, this was such a wonderful conversation. And it's I know a lot of listeners, they take a lot of great advice. So what are some of the ways of contacting you, getting in touch with you, learning more about you?
Yeah, no, my website is the best place, which is it's www.Erbe, which is ERBE wealth.com. And in that, I've got you can sign up for our monthly newsletter. But besides that, I have tons. I'm trying to put a ton of content, educational content, up on there that, really educates the new investor. And so I have a lot of articles that have been posted up there. And yeah, and you can actually, if you want to join our email list, you can, that's where you can do that, or you can reach out and I'm happy to talk to you.
Awesome. And for all the listeners, all of Stephanie's resources will be in the show notes. And Stephanie, any parting words of wisdom or advice before we call it a day?
No, I mean, I know actually doctors are pretty dear to my heart. When I went to undergrad, I roomed with a whole bunch of medical students, and I know how difficult and how much debt a lot of them went into, and then now how hard they're working and everything like that. And so I would just encourage this type of investing actually has only been available really to the mass market since 2012. Before that, there were laws that were put into place that allowed us to talk about our deals publicly. And that was all included in the Jobs Act that Obama passed. I don't know that was really what his intention was with it, but it opened this type of investing up to a whole bunch of people that never before were able to be involved in it. Before, if I had a deal prior to 2012, I would have to only go to people who I had an existing relationship with. So that was sort of the country club type of investing that people did, and so I'm really passionate about letting people know, because I've seen what it did to me. I've been able to, just have so much more freedom with, my time, which, is hugely valuable. But I highly recommend to look into it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Financial freedom, economic inclusion, equal access, democratization. So that's what this podcast is all about as well. So Stephanie, thanks so much. We really enjoyed you on the show. This was a fantastic conversation. And until next time.
Thank you.
What a fantastic show. I hope you enjoyed our very special guest. Just remember, as a shout out to our this week's sponsor, CitiVest.com. CitiVest gives you access to the best real estate private equity funds with enhanced investment terms, verified due diligence, and lower risk. You can check them out at CitiVest.com or click on the link in the show notes below to hear about their upcoming investment offerings. I'm excited that you made it for another episode. You are truly the best. If you've been following the show for a while, you know that my passion is to bring you the education you need to find your path to financial freedom. Please come back week after week for new content, new resources, and great guests. Until then, if you haven't already, please be sure to check out the website, www.drchrislewmdphd.com for more support. I'll see you next week.